to record on this computer. So this week we'll be talking about verb tenses, which is a very important theme to discuss because, se adelantó. It's an important theme to discuss because a lot of you, especially as second language learners, may struggle writing English because there's so many tenses. There's around 12 different tenses, and in Spanish we have our own host of different grammatical problems. So it's definitely a source of difficulty for a lot of people writing essays, and it's probably useful for you to know when to use a particular verb form and when to not. It's all very practical knowledge. Okay, so week 12, we'll be talking about the verb tenses. And after this week, hopefully we'll finish talking about the 12 verb tenses, and you'll do some exercises, regular exercises this week. And then by the end, at some point, probably not next week, because next week, creo que Semana Santa is still on, ¿verdad? Semana Santa is still academic recess that I know of. I don't know if anybody can respond to this question. It's kind of an open-ended question. Se supone que hubiese sido receso académico. Is that still going? Is anyone in the loop for that? I'll chequear si hay mensaje de eso. That's an important question before we start. Can anybody check? Anybody that's like actively there? About the state of Semana Santa? Oh. Okay, so I'll probably check that out for you guys because it's quite important for me to know, especially because according to that, then after we uncover or after we discuss the different verb tenses, you'll have your second test, and your second exam will be on non-canonical sentences and passive sentences and verb tenses. So it'll be on those three topics that we discussed, and you will have it on Canvas. And not only that, but your exam will be timed. It will be timed for an hour. So or maybe a little bit more, over an hour, maybe I'll give you like an hour and a half. So you want to make sure that wherever you're completing your test from has reliable Wi-Fi, and you want to make sure that by the time I give you this test that you familiarize yourself with the book's material. So you don't want to leave it till the very end and then take the test and have your book next to you and be looking at all the answers. I really want you to know the material, okay? So it'll be like an ordinary test, but online, and it'll have a timer. And it'll probably give you additional time just because I know how many of you have difficulties with Wi-Fi, so I may be nice in terms of time, but it will be timed. And it will happen after we finish this material, okay? So if anyone has any questions or any concerns about the syllabus, about the upcoming exam that will happen after we discuss this, so hopefully it'll happen not this week, but like depending on whether we have class next week, ¿verdad? Or not, next week or the other week. Okay, so in our 10th lecture, we will be using the blue book by Azar, which you all have copies to because I sent it to you via email. So you shouldn't have an issue accessing it and looking at your chapter 1 and subsequent chapters, because I believe that that book goes very in depth in its discussion of tenses. So chapter 1 gives you a general overview of the 12 tenses, and then after that, the following subsequent chapters speak about each tense, but to much more detail, okay? So the cool thing about our new book is that it makes use of a lot of exercises, so you'll have plenty of opportunity to familiarize yourself with the material. Also, another cool thing is that it has a lot of pictures. So for those of you who are more visual, and you don't really like your dry grammar book, que no tiene foto, and you're like, what is this person talking about? You'll be able to maybe understand it a little bit more because it's not dry. It's made for language learners, and it's made for people that are not familiarized with grammar, which is quite, I think it's good. So when we talk about tenses, we'll be referring to this timeline that you see projected in your PowerPoint slide. So it's a tense timeline, and in this tense timeline, you have highlighted your past, your now, present, and your future. And in our discussion of the 12 tenses, we'll see how they each get projected differently in this one timeline. So to begin with our first tense discussion, we have the simple tenses. The simple tenses are the ones that are unproblematically talking about a specific moment in time. One moment in time, and that's it. It's unproblematic. Simple present, you guessed it, talks about a time in the present, right? But simple present is also quite unique in that you can talk about the simple present, and it also refers to things that happen right now and things that happen on a regular basis. So simple present, in general, the simple present expresses events or situations that exist always. So not just right now, but always across the spectrum, habitually, usually. So they exist right now, they've existed in the past, and they will probably continue in the future. So if we were to project this into an example of some sort, we have, it snows in Alaska, the sentence, okay? So notice how snows here has the morpheme S, ¿verdad? Rather than saying snow without any morphological attachment. We have S attached to snow, the verb. And the reason why we have that S attached to snow is because we're talking about a third person in the sentence. It, ¿verdad? Which is an event or an object or whatever. Whereas another way of talking about a third person could be he, she, ¿verdad? Or also we can talk about, so it, he, she, they are all third person. So whenever we're talking about third person present, add that S to your verb. So it snows in Alaska, it snows right now in Alaska, but also it snows regularly. I go to Alaska and I know that it snows. I can expect snow. The same way that you can say in Arizona, it's always hot in Arizona. It is always hot in Arizona. Tom watches actually, that was a pretty crappy example because I have the auxiliary is. But you can think about another example with regards to Arizona always being hot, using the simple present. Another example would be Tom watches television every day. Again, watches conjugated for third person Tom. So every day he watches television. Today he's gonna watch television at present. In the past, he watches television, and in the future, he still watches television. So simple present can be projected into our tense timeline by a number of X's across the timeline, both in the past, in the future, and in the now. So that is our tense timeline for the simple present. Then we have the simple past. So the simple past is quite different in that it's talking about a specified moment, one moment in the past. An action began and ended in the past. It's defined. The time for that action is defined. So simple past expresses how at one particular time in the past an event happened. It began and ended in the past. Examples, it snowed yesterday. Yesterday defined, it happened, no longer. Tom watched television last night. It happened in the past, no longer, it was in the past. So we project this onto our tense timeline, and we have an X marked at some particular moment in our past. And that's simple past. then we have the simple future. So when we talk about the simple future, there are several ways that we can sort of shape our simple future. So simple future, at one particular time in the future, something's gonna happen. So you can have, for instance, it will snow tomorrow. Notice how we're using our modal auxiliary verb will to mark time in the future. So we use will in combination with a verb snow. It will snow. It is going to snow tomorrow. So this is another way that we can form the future, the simple future. We can use either will or we can use is going. Is going is a little bit more informal. Will is more formal. But again, both of these different constructions are talking about a time in the future. Tom will watch television tonight. Tom is going to watch television tonight. Again, we're referring in all of these examples to a particular moment in the future. So in our tense timeline, we have an X under the future, ¿verdad? At a specific time in the future. Any questions so far in our chat? Are you following? I can't even see if there's any questions. Anyway, I shall continue. But if there are any questions, the chat box will pop up and it'll tell me that people are asking me questions. Hopefully you can still hear me, which is what I'm most concerned about. Okay, let me hide this. So simple future. At one particular time in the future, this will happen. It will snow tomorrow. It is going to snow tomorrow. Tom will watch television tonight. Tom is going to watch, etc. So this is for your Canvas. You will be expected to answer these questions that I will upload to your assignments part in Canvas for this week. They all revolve around you making sentences about the tenses that we're discussing. So you making sentences about general truths. So can you think of a general truth? Espérate. Jambasa me pide un meeting para el password. Pause right now, hombre. It's the first time ever that I'm having this difficulty that people are being asked passwords to join. Let me see if I can. I have no idea. Let me record. I am trying to see how I can invite you. Right now, I'm unable to see the password. Send the link through email. Okay, I'm gonna send the link. I'm gonna send the link again. If they stop share momentarily, invite. Oh, I see meeting password. Aquí está. All right, sorry about that. So let's continue. Sorry, so you'll be asked to make utterances or sentences discussing general truths. So what are general truths? Things that we know are a fact that happen regularly or habitually. So you will use your simple present to answer that first question. A general truth, an example of a general truth can be the cases of coronavirus are on the rise. Are is our simple present, are on the rise. So what are some of the things that you do every day or almost every day? Name 3 activities using simple present. And then this is with regards to simple past, what did you do yesterday? Name 3 separate activities. And then what are you going to do tomorrow? This is simple future. And again, these will be uploaded to your Canvas, so you can just like use the Canvas platform. You don't need to worry about making a separate Word document. Canvas has the option for you to submit a text. So I'll turn that on so you can just write it onto Canvas. So then after this, we have the progressive tenses, progression. So when we talk about progression, we're talking about something that's being done in a continuous manner or something that is ongoing right now. So progressive tenses give the idea that an action is in progress during a particular time. So the time could be in the future, that it will happen continuously or in progress. The time could be at present, that's happening in progress. It started in the past, it's happening in the present, it will continue probably in the future. Or you can also have past progressive, which is again a continuous action or an action that is in progress but in the past. And we'll see how this plays out in our tense timeline. So an action begins before, is in progress during, and continues after another time or action. So when we make the progressive tense, we usually use an auxiliary verb, be. And remember how there's different ways that we can conjugate be. Be is also am, is, was, were, etc. Okay, so we use be and we combine be with a verb that's conjugated with the ing. And that ing is what specifies that it's a progressive tense. Okay? So, present progressive. Now we're talking about the present, the first type of progressive tense, present progressive. Tom is sleeping right now. Context, what is this telling me? So basically, Tom is sleeping right now. In that sentence, we know that at some point in the past, Tom started sleeping. ¿Verdad? Probably at some point. It is now 11. Tom went to sleep at 10 tonight, so in the past, but right now at 11, he's still asleep. So he began his action in the past, and it is still in progress right now, and it'll probably continue. We don't know, but we're kind of like predicting that it'll probably continue in the future. So if we were to project that into our tense timeline, it would look as follows. We have a defined past, a defined now, and then in progress, probably up to the future. Then we have past progressive. So again, past tense, we're talking about something that happened in the past. Tom was sleeping when I arrived. So Tom was in progress or in the continuous action of sleeping in the past. So his action started in the past and then I arrived. So it's a second situation that happened in the past. I arrived and he was sleeping at the time that I arrived, and then is still probably sleeping right now. So, or in the past, he stopped sleeping. We don't know. So context, Tom went to sleep at 10 last night. I arrived at 11. So he was still asleep when I arrived. He began his sleep before I came, and it was in progress when I came at a particular time in the past, and it probably continued in the past after I arrived. So probably continued. Okay, but again, projected in the past, and it's an ongoing action in the past. So then we have future progressive. Future progressive, what is that? So Tom will be sleeping when we arrive. Again, another action that's happening continuously, or it's happening in progress. Sorry, I got an email. So Tom will be sleeping when we arrive. Notice how there's the use of the modal auxiliary will to mark a time in the future. And then we have be, be sleeping, which shapes the progressive tense. So the context for the future progressive is as follows. Tom will go to sleep at 10 tomorrow. He will at 10 tomorrow. By the time I arrive at 11 tomorrow, he will probably still be asleep. And even after I arrive tomorrow, he will probably continue sleeping in progression in the future. So our tense timeline, all referring to different points in the future, would look like this. Okay? So these are practice problems that, again, I will upload to Canvas to do with the progressive tense. And then you can do them in your own time and practice everything that I've been saying and discussing. Okay, so now we have perfect tenses. So perfect tenses, let me say this before we dive into present perfect. Perfect tenses usually are formed by using auxiliary verb have, okay? Versus progressive tenses that are formed by using be and the morpheme ing. The perfect tense is formed by using have and a verb conjugated usually in the past participle, in the simple past. So you can have, okay, your first present perfect, ¿verdad? Presente, right now, present perfect tense, can express different situations, all of which happened at some point before now. And I'm referring it to it right now. So it's different to the progressive tense because we're not talking about a continuous action or an action in progress. We're referring to two specific times, right? Two specified times, past, now. Like past in relation to now. So the present perfect can be used again to express different things. And this is something that you probably need to know. So for instance, Azar makes a distinction between 3 different types of purposes that we use the present perfect for. The first type of purpose that we use the present perfect for is to express the idea that something happened or never happened before now at an unspecified time in the past. So in order to make this present perfect a verb, we would combine the auxiliary verb have, and we would combine that with a verb conjugated in the past participle form. So when we make the present perfect, the exact time is not important in the content. So if there is a specific mention of time, the simple past is used. They moved into a new apartment last month. So when we make the present perfect, we may use adverbs like never, ever, already, yet, still, just to talk about time. But again, all of these adverbs are quite vague and abstract. They're not communicating a specific moment in time. So the time is really unspecified. So let's see how that would play out. So that type of present perfect that talks about an action that started in the past in relation to now, and the timing is unspecified, they have moved into a new apartment. So in the past, they moved to a new apartment. Right now, they are moved into that new apartment. The time of when they moved to that apartment doesn't matter. Have you ever visited Mexico? You're asking somebody if they've ever, in their lifetime visited Mexico. Again, it's not something that's happening in the progressive tense. You're just asking at a specified time in the past or a specified time in the present, if you've ever visited Mexico. I have never seen the snow. So in the past, never. Right now, never seen the snow. I have already seen that movie. In the past already, or probably like to this moment, I've already seen that movie. Jack hasn't seen it yet. He didn't see it in the past, and to this moment, he hasn't seen it. Anne started a letter to her parents last night, but she still hasn't finished it. So she hasn't finished it in the past, and right now, at this moment, she still hasn't finished it. Alex feels bad. He has just heard some bad news. He has just heard. Here, the time is specified, and we see this with the use of the adverb just, which is quite nice. So he heard it right now. So it's referring to right now. So again, in order for you to wrap your head around how the perfect tense looks like, it uses have, and it uses a tense that's if they conjugate it in the past tense. Present perfect. The second purpose that we may use a present perfect for is to express the repetition of an activity before now. So an activity that started in the past and before now happened regularly. So it's kind of like similar to the progressive tense. However, I guess the important difference is that in the progressive tense, it's not interrupted. In the progressive tense, it happens continuously and it's not interrupted. But in the perfect tense, in this case, it's interrupted. So it happens frequently, but it doesn't happen in a continuous manner. So you're not always being tested. So for instance, some of the examples that showcase this second purpose for the present perfect. So meaning the repetition of an activity before now. We have had 4 tests so far this semester. So you had 4 tests at particular moments in time so far in the past and until now. I have written my wife a letter every other day for the last 2 weeks. So for the last 2 weeks, regularly, but not continuously, you have written a letter to your wife. I have met many people since I came here in June. Since you came here in June, at regular moments, you met people, but not in a consistent, continuous manner. I have flown on an airplane many times in the past and at an unspecified moment. You have flown, you are still flying regularly many times. So again, although semantically it can be similar to your other tenses, the difference is that it's talking about regular actions that are interrupted, that are not happening like in a continuous manner. They're just happening regularly. So then our third type of present perfect expresses a situation that began in the past and continues to the present using words like for and since. So since a particular time, for a duration of time. So this one kind of looks like the progressive tense, and you can see that by like this uninterrupted arrow, but the difference being that, again, it's not referring to something that is in progress, which is essentially what the progressive tense refers to. So I have been here since 11 o'clock. So I got here at 11 and I'm still here. So it began in the past and continues. We have been here for 2 weeks. So I came here 2 weeks. Right now I'm still here. I have had this same pair of shoes for 3 years. I have liked cowboy movies ever since I was a child. I have known him for many years. And again, notice these keywords, since, for, that are highlighted in your color purple, in the color purple, to kind of indicate the third type of present perfect that deals with the situation that began in the past and continues. Okay, so those are your 3 types of present perfect uses. And I'll probably end it here because for the next class, we'll go into perfect progressive, so it kind of gets more complicated. So it's important for you to familiarize yourself with the tenses that we've spoken about right now. So you will have some exercises uploaded to Canvas. You will have until Wednesday night to fulfill these, but they're all easy questions and they're 10 basically 10 questions. So is everybody okay with the material discussed? Let me see if I can go back to the. Is everybody okay? How are we doing? Yes. Good. Cool. Cool. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I will end this recording right now. Always remember that you can also email me if you ever, or message me if you ever experience any difficulties with the platform Canvas, or if you have any like doubts and you want someone to verify the work that you've done, you can also ask me, although I must highlight that I'm not a 24-hour system. So it's not that I'll always be checking in at any hour. So try to be a little bit more if they understand me. So I will only probably I'll fulfill my office hours, or my previous office hours, which were 1 to 3 p.m. But sometimes every now and then I do, if they message back, the odd off out of office email and message. But try to be a little bit understanding because I'm doing a lot of stuff. Is that okay? Okay, so everybody have a good day. You have doubts about, yeah, or you just like message me through email. I mean, message me through my phone.